everyone, welcome back to my channel. Unless you're new, then welcome. My name is Jasmine. I'm a music business student, avid fangirl, artist manager who makes music commentary videos here on this channel if you want to stick around and subscribe. Today we are going to be doing the second installment of my Analyzing Album series. I started this series about a month ago, and the first video that I did was Taylor Swift albums if you want to go check that out. But I said in that video that the next time we did this, it would be with One Direction albums, so that is what this video is today. And who on the internet is more qualified than me to analyze and rank One Direction albums? Nobody, okay? Nobody. I have been around to see all of these albums come out in real time. I grew up with them. I know them forwards and backwards. I know them not like the back of my hand, but better than the back of my hand. So basically how this works is we're going to analyze the album by looking at a bunch of different categories and assigning points to each. We have the overall look, lyricism, production, critic reviews, chart success, and then the album receives bonus points based on the mainstream awards that it has won. In each of those categories, the album will get a score out of 5. Then at the end, you add them all up, and whoever has the most points at the end is album number 1, 2, 3, and so on until you have them all ranked. So that is what we're doing today for One Direction albums. I'm so excited to get into this video, but I do want to remind you that once again, just like in my Taylor video, this video is going to be super biased, all up to my opinion, nothing super scientific. So if at the end they don't rank how you thought they would, I'm sorry. You have nobody to blame but me. But I'm sorry, I'm just warning you up front that it's very opinionated. Before we get into analyzing One Direction's albums, let me just say a big thank you to NordVPN for sponsoring today's video. Take it away, me. So everyone uses the internet these days, obviously, but not a lot of us are aware of the cybersecurity threats that come with it, like phishing, password attacks, malware, ransomware, maladvertising, which is literally the worst. Nobody wants a bunch of malicious ads popping up when they're trying to do something online. Nobody wants random people accessing their data. And that's where NordVPN comes to the rescue. NordVPN is the fastest, easy-to-use VPN that specializes in threat protection to keep you safe while you're browsing the internet or playing games or whatever you're doing online. NordVPN's threat protection blocks intrusive ads and web trackers and automatically scans URLs to block the malicious ones. These features make NordVPN not only a VPN, but a very powerful cybersecurity tool, which is literally perfect for me as someone who uses the internet for literally everything, especially my YouTube work. My videos require a lot of online research, and I often find myself down deep rabbit holes on the internet. So it's nice to know that my data is being protected while I'm browsing the internet, and knowing that no malicious pop-up ads are gonna get my ass while I'm researching. But not only all the super protective stuff, because of course there's more. NordVPN is absolutely perfect for those instances where you really want to watch something on a streaming service but it's not available in your country. You can use NordVPN to virtually change your location and enjoy those shows on different platforms that aren't available to you. Like, I know that Netflix has a very different selection of TV shows and movies than we do over here in the US. So NordVPN is absolutely perfect for switching my location over to the UK and browsing all they have to offer while I'm unfortunately stuck in the States. And it's all super easy. You literally just click on the map that they have, it changes your location, and you're somewhere else in seconds and you can browse freely. So definitely go protect your data and get the most out of all these streaming services with this exclusive deal by visiting nordvpn.com/jasminezade. It's absolutely risk-free with NordVPN's 30-day money-back guarantee. So again, don't miss out. Exclusive deal, nordvpn.com/jasminezade. I'll have the link at the top of my description as well, so it's easy to locate. Thank you so much again to NordVPN for sponsoring this video. Let's get back to it. Thank you, Jasmine, for that stunning reminder to go download NordVPN. Now let's get into analyzing all of One Direction's albums, so alas, we can see how they rank. So Up All Night was released on November 28th in 2011. Its genre is labeled as pop, dance pop, and teen pop, which is very interesting and unlike anything else that they put out. But that's definitely without a doubt where the One Direction boys got started, in that really tweeny, cheesy boy band pop kind of thing, especially for the time when it came out in the 2010s, which was pretty fitting for them in their first album, considering they were a group of like 17, 18-year-old boys being marketed towards an audience of young teen girls as heartthrobs. The subject matter of Up All Night just makes so much sense for that, considering their market. Now, the look for Up All Night, while not extremely specific, does somewhat match what they're talking about on the album. In their shoots for this album, they're just wearing like super casual clothes. They're huddled up as a group. They've got on like very simple jackets and t-shirts, just nothing really super themed, especially compared to what they would end up wearing on tour. It's just giving a group of teenage boys, which is exactly what the album is about, so I can't really be mad at that entirely. Also, the back of the album is just a picture of them in a group running on the beach, which seems to be a call to the What Makes You Beautiful music video, so that kind of makes sense. I think the look for Up All Night and the theming that they went with for the album and their music videos makes sense for what it is. Like, I understand why it is what it is, but it could have been so much more themey and cooler, especially with the concept of Up All Night. Like, I feel like that gives you so much room to do a bunch of things, like a bunch of teenage boys staying up all night. There could have been a really cool theme there, but it's just giving like pop boy band group of boys. It's very lazy. So I'll give the overall look of Up All Night a 2. Again, I get why it is what it is, but nothing that jumps out. Now, for the lyricism on Up All Night, we can all just agree to have a laugh about it, okay? Up All Night was written entirely for One Direction, and they didn't write any of the songs themselves. So of course it's giving cheesy. Like these industry writers just took heartthrob pop boy band and really ran with it and gave nothing else. But again, because they were trying to draw in a very specific audience with this album, so it kind of makes you understand why the cheesy lyrics are the way that they are. So there was just a lot of cheesy love songs oozing with cringy lyrics that only a true One Direction stan could look back on and treasure for the nostalgia. But allow me to give you some just truly meaningful examples of these lyrics. Katy Perry's On Replay, she's on replay, DJ got the floor to shake, the floor to shake, people going all the way, yeah, all the way. I'm still wide awake. Why Katy Perry? Give you this, give you that, blow a kiss, take it back. If I looked inside your brain, I would find lots of things. Clothes, shoes, diamond rings, stuff that's driving me insane. Honestly, just I Want in its entirety would make this list. It's everything about you, everything that you do, from the way that we touch baby to the way that you kiss on me. Also, forget about the clock that's ticking, kind of iconic. I can't be no Superman, but for you, I'll be superhuman. Also, up and away, I'll take you with me. Why did they do that to Louis? Why did they make him say up and away? Also, my personal favorite, we're like, nah, nah, nah. Then we're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Real life One Direction lyrics. Have you ever just taken a minute to ponder about those? But you get it. It's like, what the fuck is this? But then at the same time, we all devoured it. And I continue to devour it. Just looking back, it's fine. There are some lyrics on Up All Night that are good tier. And it's so funny because those songs stick out so much because it's like the one good lyric. Like Moments, the entire song on its own, while a little bit cheesy, the lyrics are so much better. Masterpiece, which Ed Sheeran wrote, and you can tell the songs that Ed Sheeran wrote for them. Let's give Up All Night another 2 for lyrics. It's a train wreck, but you know what? It's a fun train wreck. I had a good time. For the production, honestly, my favorite part about Up All Night in its entirety, but production-wise, Up All Night is predominantly a pop music record, which orientates into elements of the dance pop, teen pop, pop rock, and power pop genres, with electropop and rock music influences. So in summary, pretty pure pop, like I said earlier, but there are some songs that introduce a lot more guitars, a lot more percussion, a little bit of an edgier sound. Like I Want is super rock. There's like a whole rock instrumental. Tell Me a Lie also feels really electric. There's just some songs in there that kind of stray into that rocky sound a little bit. But like I said, I think the sound of Up All Night is exactly what makes it so much fun. Like overall, this album is just so much fun. And I think that's like the number one way to describe it. Very fun and nostalgic. Like I've been to many One Direction club nights and the Up All Night songs that come on just go so crazy in that atmosphere. Like they were made for it. Even though the lyrics are so cheesy, the production is just so up-tempo and electric and almost euphoric in that atmosphere especially. The album also has a sound that's not really around like that anymore too, so it's like super reminiscent of the time period, which is why I said that it feels super nostalgic, especially to someone who's been a One Direction stan for a long time. I also can really appreciate that Up All Night knows exactly what it wants to be. It mixes sounds in a way that's super cohesive and consistent without every single thing sounding like the exact same, and I love that about an album. Like any album that can pull that off, I think is so good. So for that and the fact that I think it's super fun, I'll step it up a little bit and give Up All Night a 3 for production. On to critical reception. It's said that Up All Night received generally positive reviews from music critics. In the last Analyzing Albums, I introduced you guys to the platform called Metacritic, where basically it assigns your album a score out of 100 based on critic reviews. And the closer you are to 100, the more favorable your reviews are. So the Metacritic score for Up All Night is 64, which is not the best I've seen, but is pretty average too. A lot of the positive reviews I saw of Up All Night applaud how targeted it is and call it perfectly targeted, and really like applaud its ability to appeal to a certain audience, which I think is the perfect way to describe Up All Night. I also agree that it's perfectly targeted because I won't shut the fuck up about it in this video. I've literally mentioned the target audience like 5 million times. But AllMusic said the album has limitless potential for the time being. This is a perfectly sized and targeted collection. Some critics commented on how well the boys did pop for a boy band and called the tracks, quote, toe tappers. Understatement, but okay. Critics also said that the boys chose their singles well and that the singles that they had on Up All Night were good. However, some critics did not like Up All Night, of course. One critic said Up All Night severely lacks in personality, saying the album won't help the group earn much respect in music circles. But if a tween pop empire is what these boys are after, they're definitely headed in the right direction. Basically saying that their music is only good for the tween market and nobody is going to take them seriously outside of that. Other critics said it was strictly cheesy radio pop music and wasn't much more than that. But I was actually really surprised reading some of the Up All Night reviews because a lot of the stuff that was said was very favorable and people liked the album. The only really negative stuff I could find was people saying that it was tweeny, cheesy music and didn't do much for people outside of that. So let's give Up All Night another 3 for critic reviews. Kind of crazy, but I'm feeling it. For chart success, usually I would say let's cut them some slack because it was just their debut album, but One Direction doesn't need it. They don't need the slack to be cut. Up All Night topped the charts in 16 different countries, and it was just their debut album. It also became the 3rd best-selling album in the US after its release in 2012. It entered the UK albums chart at number 2 and was the fastest-selling album of 2011 in general, not the 3rd fastest. So let's give Up All Night a strong 4 for chart success just because it was their debut and it was so monumental. Then we have some bonus points based off of awards that the album has won. The only really mainstream award that the boys won for Up All Night was a Brit for What Makes You Beautiful, so they get 1 bonus point, bringing Up All Night to 15 points total. Okay. Fairly strong start, but there's many more to get into. Let's take a look at Take Me Home. Take Me Home was released on November 9th in 2012. The genre is now pop and pop rock. We no longer got the tweeny pop, whatever that Up All Night said. Not even gonna pretend I remember all those genres that I said for Up All Night, because I just don't. I just don't remember. But this one I know is different. To me, I always thought of Take Me Home as Up All Night's older sister, even though Take Me Home is younger, whatever. But it just feels like a little bit of the same content as Up All Night, but just one step up. It's slightly elevated. You know what I mean? It's not the exact same. There's a lot of the same theming and a lot of the same sounds, but it just matured slightly, just one step up. Take Me Home is said to be about falling in love, unrequited love, commitment, jealousy, and self-empowerment. So a lot of Take Me Home does still revolve around the concept of love, but there is still some of that we're young and we want to have fun content on the album, kind of like in Up All Night. But the look of Take Me Home is not very themed, similarly to Up All Night. Still working with that young band of guys kind of thing. I will say, though, that I do like the album cover a lot more this time around. I think all of them around this phone booth obviously makes a lot of sense for the title Take Me Home. And I also like that on the album cover around the phone booth, they're wearing coordinated outfits, but not exactly the same thing. I think I've talked about this in a video before, but that's one of my favorite things about a boy band or a girl group, coordinating outfits but not exactly matching. The yearbook edition of Take Me Home is also really cute. I love the little plane tickets and paper airplane kind of theming. Again, Take Me Home, the travel thing, makes so much sense, and I thought that was really cute. Just having some sort of theme is always what I want to see. That's just gonna keep coming up because it's what I like to see. And for 1D especially, 1D? Why didn't I say One Direction? For One Direction specifically, it's so many of their eras were divided so cleanly and nicely by hairstyles and inside jokes and the tours and the things that they wore. But they weren't divided by album theming as much. They didn't get into that until maybe a little bit later. But their albums just did not feel set apart enough for me. I feel like they would have been so much cooler if they stuck to a theme for each one. Not that everyone in the world needs to be Taylor Swift, okay? But it would just be nice. I'll give it a 2.5 for overall look. Still lacking for me, but at least one little half step up from Up All Night because I do like paper airplanes and the phone booth thing. If they would have expanded more on the travel thing, that would have been really cool. So 2.5. Now, the lyricism on Take Me Home is a little bit better than the lyricism on Up All Night, but the boys were still not writing for themselves. We still got that cheesy cliche appealing to a certain kind of audience type of lyrics, unfortunately. Let's go crazy, crazy, crazy till we see the sun. And I'm like, ow, never thought it hurt so bad, getting over you. They don't know about us in her entirety. Would he say he's in LOVE? Well, if it was me, then I would. But I do think that Take Me Home has some stronger songs lyrically in its collection than Up All Night did, like I said. Over Again, absolutely crazy, like one of the best songs in their whole discography lyrically. I also noticed that the takes on love on this album are slightly elevated compared to Up All Night. They're like exploring the concept in more ways than they did in Up All Night too. It felt very surface level in Up All Night. But in Take Me Home, we're working with seeing someone in a club, lust and desire, picking out one's insecurities and loving them, loving someone when distance is a problem, mundane and everyday parts of love. It's just giving big sister, okay? Like, Take Me Home is the older, more experienced sister, again, even though she's younger. I'll give it another 2.5. You know, like, it's a little bit better than the lyricism on Up All Night, but it's still not taking me there. Still not giving me 3, you know? Now, I love, love, love the production of Take Me Home, or like the sound of it. Some of the songs on Take Me Home are like my absolute favorite to listen to because they're so fun and up-tempo. The New York Times said Take Me Home is far more mechanical than their debut album. Take Me Home has also been noted to be a little bit more 80s-esque and rock dabbled than Up All Night. And its production features a lot of really fun stuff like hand clapping, laugh tracks, whistles, spoken word. Go Tomo Go, best thing that's literally ever happened to me, okay? I also think the boys show off their vocal abilities a lot more on Take Me Home than they did on Up All Night. It's like not just giving boy band, but we can sing, not dance, but sing, we can sing. And I also think that Take Me Home is slightly more cohesive than Up All Night. Some of the songs on Take Me Home might sound a little bit similar to each other, but it's all just super dependable overall without making me feel like I'm listening to the same song over and over again. I'll give it a 3 for the production. I know I also gave Up All Night a 3, but they're 3s for different reasons. For critical reception, Take Me Home got a 68 on Metacritic, which is higher than Up All Night, good sign. One critic described the album as an immediately catchy mix of dancey pop that maximizes the group's shared lead vocal approach and peppy, upbeat image. What a way to describe Take Me Home. I love it. A lot of critics noted that the boys' voices were really fantastic and that the album overall is super charming. In a lot of reviews I read, critics also really loved the pop genre that they did and said that they did it well. Some commented on the album's variety and called it polished and compelling. One critic said Come On is the best song on the entire album and called it euphoric and amazing. Your mind, because Come On is so good. Also, one of the most important things that critics kept saying is that you can really see the boys' shift from teenagers to young adults on this album, which is what I was kind of saying earlier about the elevated lyricism. In some less favorable reviews of this album, some critics were saying that only Zayn stands out vocally on it. Some thought that the album was empty, had no real substance, and was super rushed. They can be so harsh sometimes. Again, a lot of critics also called this album too targeted, saying that it would only work for a certain group of people and they wouldn't be taken seriously outside of that market. One said, unless you're in the target demographic or are perhaps a mom who lived through the same thing in her youth, there's no point in even going near this record, of course, but the rest of us were never meant to in the first place. I think this criticism about the appeal of the album is really fair, so I'll give it another 3 for critic reviews, feeling somewhere right in the middle. But for chart success, there's no surprise this album is sweeping again. Up All Night topped the charts in 16 countries, Take Me Home topped the charts in 35. So if that doesn't say step up, I don't know what else will. It topped the charts in the UK and was the second fastest selling album of 2012, and it was the #1 fastest selling in Ireland specifically. It was the boys' second #1 in the United States, just crazy. And it went #1 in several other countries. It had the biggest first week sales for an album by a boy band since NSYNC in 2001. And it also made One Direction the first boy band in history to release 2 #1 albums in a single calendar year. So let's give her a strong 4 for chart success. Definitely a huge step up from Up All Night. And then Take Me Home also gets 1 bonus point for winning the AMA for favorite pop/rock album, and a bonus point for Live While We're Young winning the best international song of the year. Keep in mind that throughout One Direction's career, they won many, many awards. Like, there's so many, but I'm only mentioning the ones that have to do with the album or a single on the album specifically, and I'm only doing awards that are super mainstream. But overall, Take Me Home has 17 points total. I really hope this ranking doesn't end up just being all their albums in order backwards from how they were released. But on to Midnight Memories. Midnight Memories was released on November 25th in 2013. The genre is just pop rock. Look at how far we've come. This is also One Direction's first album to be labeled sort of pop rock over pure pop, which is really interesting, and that's kind of reflected in the sound of it. And we're kind of working with some new themes, obviously still love, but also forms of heartbreak and like a really strong appreciation for fans are all over this album. For the overall look, I like what the boys are dressed in for their album shoot. They're coordinating really well with each other without straight up matching, kind of like in Take Me Home, but in a much different way. Very streety and casual, and I think that just really worked for this album concept and the time period overall. And I like that there's a little bit of consistency in the album shoot with them walking on the street and like laying in the street and just being in the street in general. But I do, in fact, hate the back of this album. The track list bothers me so much. Like, it's just them as a group holding up the track list and you can only see their heads. No sense of cohesiveness within like the front and back of the album. And I'm a whiny bitch. I want my cohesiveness, okay? And again, it would have been so cool for them on this album, aesthetic wise, to play with the concept of Midnight Memories. Just like it would have been cool for them to play on the concept of Up All Night or play on the concept of Travel with Take Me Home. Like, it just would have been so much cooler if they did something Midnight Memories-ish. Again, I'm gonna give overall a look a 2. Are they ever gonna beat the 2 allegations? I like the front, it's just not themed well altogether. Lyrically, however, humongous fan of Midnight Memories. This is the first album that the boys have writing credits on. Thank God we finally got here because we were sick of them just being given songs. But with them being able to finally write their own stuff, we got a feel for what they want to talk about in their writing style and how they do things. Louis in particular wrote a lot of songs for this album and some of the best songs on the album, so he gets a lot of credit for Midnight Memories and deserved. Where would we be without Louis Tomlinson writing for One Direction? This album is also crazy because it feels like such a humongous leap from Up All Night and Take Me Home. Like, between Up All Night and Take Me Home was like slightly elevated compared to Up All Night, but Midnight Memories is like 5 million steps elevated. It's crazy. Like, so drastically different and so much better, it's almost mind-boggling, which is funny because it's the first album they wrote on themselves. Let me just read you some lyrics again real quick so you can see how far we've come from We're Like Nah Nah Nah. Written on these walls are the colors that I can't change. Leave my heart open, but it stays right here in its cage. I know that in the morning I'll see us in the light up on the hill. Although I am broken, my heart is untamed still. My hands, your hands, tied up like two ships, drifting weightless, waves try to break it. I'd do anything to save it. Why is it so hard to say it? Like... You tell me that you hurt, it's all in vain, but I can see your heart can love again, and I remember you laughing, so let's just laugh again. Not to mention the song Better Than Words in its entirety. It's a song about how the love in question is so good that they don't have the words for it, so they're using other people's words. They built the song around song titles from other artists and then put them together into their own song to explain the concept of not having the words to describe their love. Literally fucking insane. She does have her fair share of weaker moments, but overall so much better, so good. Like, the stuff that they were singing about before was just so cheesy and surface level, but now it's like deep and raw and real, okay? I'll give the lyricism on Midnight Memories a strong 4. Now, the sound of Midnight Memories is a huge part of why it's my personal favorite One Direction album. Like I said before, they're really leaning into that super rocky sound, and I think it suited them so well. It is still really poppy in some places, that's why the genre is pop rock, but the mix of sounds just works so well for them. And I think this is the first time that the boys had an album that had the potential to reach outside of their very specific targeted market. Like Midnight Memories, Happily, Right Now, Little White Lies. Ooh, some of their best songs, and they're all on Midnight Memories. Sorry to say this again, but it's also super good because it knows what it wants to be and it's super consistent and cohesive without sounding like all the same song. So I think I'm going to hand out the first 5 of this video and give the sound of Midnight Memories a 5. For critical reception, jaw dropped when I read about Midnight Memories criticism. Like, jaw on the floor. The Metacritic score for Midnight Memories is 59. 59! Lower than Take Me Home and lower than Up All Night. Like, girl, what happened? The 59 signifies, quote, mixed or average reviews, which is crazy. I thought the girls would be raving over this album like I am. Some of the positive criticism around Midnight Memories really applauded its maturity and their cross into an edgier sound. The Guardian said, after 2 albums of flirting, hand-holding, and cultish fumbling at parties, One Direction might just have finally gone all the way on their 3rd album. A lot of critics were also really highlighting the songwriting on Louis and Liam's part and said that it was super good and like unlike anything that they've written before because they haven't written anything for themselves before. But those were the only super positive things I could find on Midnight Memories. Like, the reviews were super mixed and a lot of people had like a lot of negative things to say. Some critics were saying it was really odd for them to try and shift away from their tween popcore music that they were doing before. Some said that their attempt to be more mature was clumsy and didn't work. Andy Gill of The Independent specifically called the album a clumsy attempt at rock and said the change from their first 2 albums was way too drastic. That is just heartbreaking, truly not what I wanted to hear. Let's sadly give Midnight Memories a 2 for critical reception because it's not looking good. I never thought this would happen. But you know what is looking good though? Their chart success for Midnight Memories. Midnight Memories was the fastest selling album of 2013 in the UK, and it became the best selling in the whole world of 2013, even though it was released literally a month before the end of the year. Impact. It also debuted at #1, giving them their 3rd in a row, which broke them another record. It debuted at #1 on 18 different charts and made the top 5 in several countries. I struggle so much with doing the chart success part because they just keep getting the same placements and like breaking their own records, but I'll give it another 4, like Take Me Home. It was very strong. And they also get bonus points for winning the AMA for favorite pop/rock album, 2 Brit Award points for You and I and Best Song Ever, and 1 extra point for winning a VMA for Best Song Ever, bringing Take Me Home to 21 points total. That is so strong. Wait, did I just say Take Me Home? What the fuck is wrong with me today? Midnight Memories. Midnight Memories has 21 points total. Very, very strong. I'm happy with it. So 4 was released on November 17th in 2014, and its genre is again just pop rock. Me personally, I consider 4 to be pop rock in a more indie folky way than Midnight Memories was, but that's just like my personal thing. That's not like a stat, but I just feel like it's more indie. She's like a Tumblr girl. 4 is a Tumblr girl. And the look for 4 is easily my favorite. Easily takes the cake. Every last crumb of the cake. Their group look is so cohesive on the front and like during the shoot for 4. And the album cover is so simple, but it's so fitting somehow. I love the look of the brown wood on the front. I love that the front and the back actually match each other and there's no ugly track list on the back with them doing something ridiculous like in the other ones. Harry's hat in this album shoot also just adds so much. Like, it just looks so right. I could cry. I could cry. The 4 look is like giving band and not boy band, and I think that's so cool and different for them. And like I said, it just looks so indie and Tumblr. I can't even explain it, but I'm literally obsessed. And it's not like 4 has a super specific theme. That's the thing about this. It's like all the rest of their albums, I've been saying, like, play with the concept of Up All Night, play with the concept of travel with Take Me Home, play with the concept of Midnight Memories. But for 4, there is no concept, and they did it the best. Like, how is the album with no themed the best? Is literally just 4, their 4th album, and it somehow looks more cohesive than anything else they've ever done. We've just come a long way. I'm giving the look for 4 a strong 5. Couldn't imagine giving it anything else. Lyrically, we also have another really strong body of work. This is the second time we have seen the boys' own writing featured on their album, which we know works for them really well. 4 is cool because there's only one song on the whole album that I think still follows that tweeny boy band sound, and that's Steal My Girl. But literally nothing else. There's just one song on there that still has that old trace of them. And then, okay, whatever the fuck Act My Age is. But in Act My Age's defense, it's super fun. The boys loved performing it, and they don't have writing credits on it. So, but the rest of it feels super, super true to themselves. And there's a lot of really, really strong songs on 4. Like, One Direction could write Romeo and Juliet, but Shakespeare could never write Once in a Lifetime. I think I'm gonna give 4 another 5 for lyrics. I mean, what else am I gonna do? For the production, I obviously think that 4 is a really good album that had the potential to reach a mainstream audience outside of One Direction's target. But I don't like the sound as much as I like the sound of Midnight Memories, and that's just such a personal thing. Midnight Memories really knew what it wanted to be and had such a clear theme in its sound, whereas 4 is so much more of a mix, so it's just about your preference when it comes to an album. But at the same time, I really appreciate One Direction's ability on 4 to still incorporate some of that classic 1D pop with this very indie rocky sounding thing and make it something new entirely. So I'll give the sound of 4 a 4. On to critical reception. The Metacritic score for 4 is 65, which is pretty decent compared to others. Critics praised 4 for its maturity and said the songwriting was absolutely incredible. The Guardian said the boys' new direction owes a substantial debt to the big guitar pop of the 80s, while also adding that the group's music is no longer kids' stuff. A lot of critics really liked that the boys took what they were super good at on Midnight Memories and kept rolling with it to create something new instead of creating like a brand new sound entirely. A lot of critics also mentioned that 4 kind of sets them up to be a broader band outside of the scope of their target, which I kind of said earlier. And I didn't find a ton of negative criticism for 4. Only some people saying that 4 feels kind of repetitive, and some people saying that One Direction is still tied to their bubblegum pop stuff, which I don't necessarily agree with. So I'll give 4 another 4 for critical reception. For chart success, 4 debuted at number 1 in 18 countries, including the US, which gave them their 4th consecutive number 1, and they broke another record. And on iTunes specifically, it was the top charted album in 67 countries. Those are the only stats I could find for 4, but it still did really well in the charts, so we'll give it another 4. And then there's only 1 bonus point for the ARIA 4-1, but surprisingly nothing else, which really surprised me because 4 is such a strong album, I thought it would have more awards. But that brings 4 to 23 points total. Made in the AM was released on November 13th in 2015, and its genre is pop and pop rock. I don't have much to say on the genre of Made in the AM, though for content on this album is really interesting because there's a lot of substance in the theming of it. Obviously still themes of love and heartbreak, but also introducing saying goodbye, coming to terms with change, a lot of stuff about the fans. Made in the AM just feels so much like their last project together, like it is. It just feels like that's what it was, and we'll get into a little bit more of that in a bit. Now for the look of Made in the AM, the one and only thing that I like about it is the cover. Again, matching what they're doing in their look to the title of the album. Made in the AM, I love the concept of like 3 a.m. recording sessions or like up all night writing music kind of thing. The cover makes a lot of sense, like them piled on the couch, Louis and Liam on the floor. It's 3 a.m. and we're doing a writing session kind of thing. Like I think the cover is very fitting in that way and I absolutely love it. And if they really developed that and worked with the theming of like late night writing sessions, late night recording sessions, it could have been really cool. But they just did the cool fitting cover and then let the track list completely flop. It literally just a group picture on the back with the ugliest orange color, and for what? Like, why did they go with the orange for Made in the AM? The CD inside the album is also orange like that. And the rest of their album shoot doesn't make a lot of sense either. It's just giving Group of Boys once again like we did in Up All Night. So we like backtracked. We did 4 so well and got the theming so right, and then backtracked all the way back to Up All Night and just did Group of Boys. Atrocious. I'm giving it a 2. Boo. Now, lyrically, you would expect to be floored by Made in the AM, right? Because it's their 5th album. But I don't think it measures up lyrically to Midnight Memories and 4, which I know, it's wild. It's wild because you would expect them to keep stepping up, but I just don't think they did. But we have more traces of that cheesy boy bandy kind of lyricism again in Made in the AM that we had before. In Drag Me Down, Perfect, Olivia, I Want to Write You a Song. Some of those songs are just so cliche and it's surprising. Made in the AM does have its moments though, like If I Could Fly was done by Harry and it's lyrically like one of the best in their discography. Long Way Down, What a Feeling, Walking in the Wind, good tier lyrics in those songs. But I feel like with Made in the AM, you have to nitpick out the best moments about it when you don't really have to do that on their other albums. So I'll give the lyricism on Made in the AM a 3. I'm gonna get dragged to the depths of hell in the comments for giving Made in the AM a 3 for the lyrics, but it's just not doing it for me like 4 and Midnight Memories. Production-wise, I think Made in the AM is a lot of fun. Like, I will give it that. If anything, the production is super fun. They experiment a lot with things that they've never really sounded like before. Like Never Enough is absolutely insane in terms of that sound that they haven't really done before. They've got some edgy stuff on this album like Never Enough, like I said, and Temporary Fix. Fun hip-hop-y, like beat drop kind of stuff like Drag Me Down. But then you've got a good selection of like more down-tempo and sadder songs like Love You Goodbye, AM, If I Could Fly. Wolves and Olivia on their own stand out so much because of the sound of them. So different. It's just essentially such a big mix of stuff, which is what I was kind of saying earlier about this feeling like such a final project. Like it felt like this is our last chance to get everything that we want out. So here it is, this big blend of sounds that they're trying as their last project. And this is another situation where it's like you could be the type of person to absolutely love this or absolutely hate it. Like the big mix and the big experience experimental kind of thing. I get why Made in the AM ended up being what it is because they were so overworked and they needed one more album before they disbanded. I get that. But I don't like that it seems to be so unsure of what it is. So I'll give it another 3 for production. Critically, Made in the AM got a 65 on Metacritic, same as 4. Critics did notice as I was reading reviews that this seemed like such a goodbye project. The Rolling Stone called it One Direction's Let It Be, the kind of record the world's biggest pop group makes when it's time to say thanks for the memories. Critics also called it their most experimental album yet, which is true. Like I was just saying, so much exploring going on in this project. Other critics praised its emotionality and rawness, like they're finally opening up a bit and being more sensitive. Interestingly, some critics called Made in the AM timeless, which is super interesting, and I never really thought about that. There was also a bit of negative criticism for Made in the AM, though, calling it a mess of sounds and topics that are not super cohesive. Some critics called it an album of radio hits, and some critics didn't like that they went back to being a little bit more poppy than their previous projects. Not bad though, like the criticism seems a little bit mixed, but it's not terrible, so I'll give it a 4. Chart-wise, Made in the AM did debut at number 1 in the UK, but the boys lost the record that they kept breaking because it debuted at number 2 in the US and not number 1. So this was their first album ever to not get a US number 1. Crazy, don't know what happened there. And this album only went number 1 on 12 charts in different countries. It would be kind of insane to call them flops, but the numbers aren't numbering, so I'll give it a 3. And then they get 1 bonus point for winning a Brit Award, bringing Made in the AM to 16 points total. So altogether, we have Up All Night with 15 points, Take Me Home with 17, Midnight Memories with 21, 4 with 23, and Made in the AM with 16, which means we are ready for our final ranking. Final ranking puts the albums best to worst for Midnight Memories, Take Me Home, Made in the AM, Up All Night. Oh my gosh, I feel like the internet is going to put me in a chokehold for ranking Made in the AM that low. But you just heard my opinions on it, and I think you can tell exactly why I think it's not their best project. Made in the AM just didn't know what it wanted to be. It was just such a last minute, here's our last project kind of feeling thing. And there are some really good moments on Made in the AM, and it is really fun, but it's just not as solid and hard-hitting as 4 and Midnight Memories to me, so I get exactly why it ended up being ranked where it is. But 4 being number 1 makes so much sense to me. It was super cohesive. The look was so good. It had like a clear theme with the brown wood, and it looks so indie and Tumblr. The songs are good. The lyrics are good. You know, critics loved it. Like 4 so deserved of being number 1. Midnight Memories is still my favorite One Direction album, but I think it makes sense that 4 ranks number 1 when you analyze them. I think this is a pretty decent ranking. 4 Midnight Memories, Take Me Home, Made in the AM, Up All Night. I don't know how y'all are gonna feel about me putting Take Me Home before Made in the AM, but I explained to myself, so hopefully you get why it is what it is. But yeah, alas, we know how One Direction's albums rank according to me and my analyzation. I really want to hear what you guys think about the production and lyricism and all that stuff. It's really fun to look at and talk about with you, so let me know. While you're down there, don't forget to check the description for a form that I have you guys can fill out for video requests, and all my social medias are there as well. Also, big thank you again to NordVPN for sponsoring this video. I have a link in my description to go check them out and download the software as well. I hope you're all doing absolutely amazing, drinking all the water, thriving, and I can't wait to see you in my next video.